Hello everybody, welcome back to my channel Learn with Virali. I'm Virali, your guide on this coding adventure. In today's video, we'll learn how to build forms in HTML, starting with building labels and text boxes for our first form. So let's get started. So first, we'll be building a blueprint of the HTML document. So I'll be pressing an exclamation mark, pressing enter, modifying the title of the document as Forms in HTML. Part 1. Jumping directly onto the body tag, in order for us to build up the forms, we have to use a tag called as a form tag, which is going to contain all the required elements that we would need to show up inside our forms. So starting with the first text, we need to use something called as a label tag in order for us to show up the text. So it is enter your first name as our first label, and then we'll be using a text box for allowing the user to actually enter his or her first name. So for doing that, we have to use something called as an input type element, wherein making that particular type as a text for the browser to understand that this is a text box, and that is why it is going to allow the user to enter the text value in whichever format the user wants to enter. So I'll make this as input type equals to text. Also remember, input type equals to text is the default value in HTML. So if we do not specify the type, by default, HTML is going to understand it as type equals to text. So here we have to specify certain parameters such as ID, name, and at the end, we can always make this as a self-closing tag. So first, for binding this label and input box together, we'll be using a parameter called as for. Now, since this is a first name, I'll be using a short form to reference it, which should be similar to whatever is the ID of your input type box. So first name also, I'll keep it same, and then at the end, I'll enter a placeholder, which is gonna mention to the user that this input type text box is for entering the first name. So I'll say enter your first name. Now I'll create another label again for enter your last name, and again repeat the same procedure for creating a place for the user to enter his or her last name. So again, specifying input type equals to text. Value of our ID attribute of the input type should match the for from the label tag. So here I'll say it as a last name, and specifying the same inside my for the label tag. So it's gonna be L name, giving the name here as well as L name, and making this as a self-closing tag by providing the placeholder keyword here, which is to enter your last name. Now, since we're done building our first form, I'm gonna go ahead and save this particular file and navigate back onto the browser screen to see how does the actual form look like. And there you go. So you have the first text box, which is to enter your first name, which is matched up with the corresponding label as in enter your first name. Similarly, you have enter your last name and then a corresponding text box to enter your last name. In the next video, we'll take a look onto radio button and checkboxes. Until then, stay tuned and happy coding.